in Lagos. Hello and welcome to Today in the News on Vanguard Live. I am Precious Tripodi. We begin with the front pages of the papers this morning, starting off with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with "Steer clear of more borrowings. DMO cautions federal government." The writer says 73.5% of revenue will be used to service debt in 2023. Advocates privatization, sale of government assets to reduce borrowing. Federal government should heed DMO's warning, and that's coming from analysts. Cautions against further borrowing, and that's coming from Adonri. Debt service revenue situation very precarious, and that's coming from Abidoye. We can see a photo story showing Tinubu in Paris. Ministerial slot. Tinubu may dumb ex-governors prefer technocrats, and that's coming from source. On page 13, we have Benue Assembly recommends sack of 23 local government chairmen, others. Tinubu, Shettima, governors, judges, others to get 114% salary increase. That's coming from RMAFC. On stories above, NGE President IPIOT Atta congratulates Ezianaba, new ESCO. Plateau, about 14 killed in night attack on two communities. Kano government reinstates anti-graft commission board suspended by Ganduje. UK businesses responding positively to Tinubu, and that's coming from British High Commissioner. Tribunal, Tinubu INEC kicks as Obi tenders total PVCs in 32 states. NMDPRA clears air over midstream upstream operations. My daughter excited. I'll see Burna Boy Rema in Nigeria. That's come from Bill Gates. Lastly, on the front page of Vanguard newspaper, doctors raise alarm over suspected case of rabies in Kaduna. All right, so let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with student loan plan sparks controversies in university. ASU Konoa parents take different position. Policy due to begin September. MBS Disco raked in 247 billion naira in quarter one. Stories above. Makinde tips six ex-commissioners to return. House gets a list of seven. Ogbe to government. State police will end insecurity. Acting IG talk stuff. What I told President by Bill Gates. Eco Rice enter market sells for 33,000 naira. You can see more on that story on page 41. All right, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is leading with the main story. Proposed 114% pay rise for public officers complicates minimum wage negotiation. We can see an infographic showing the pay rate since 2007. Public officers 114% and so on. You can see that on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Nigeria needs a state police to tackle insecurity, says Minister Ogbe. Why UK government ban dependent visa for Nigerian students by High Commissioner. Stories above. Tinubu pushes for FDI as world leaders seek inclusive financial system at Paris summit. PEPC APM closes petition challenging Tinubu's victory. Court adjourns to July 14. Last year on the front page of The Guardian, freed inmate narrates a 14-year prison experience for not cooperating with policemen. All right, so let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with a board's dissolution. 2,000 vacancies open for APC faithfuls. Tinubu's allies, the writer says 153 agency parastatals, others await board members' appointments. Don't sacrifice competence for political patronage. OPS tells President. Also, Lagos Rice Value Chain created 2,620 jobs. That's coming from Sonwolu. Makinde elevates Ladoja, 10 other Ibadan High Chiefs to Oba. Resident panic as bandit reigns of terror return to Ondo local government. You can see that on page 7. Labor fumes as RMAFC hikes politicians' salaries. Hearing continues in Desiani's case on forfeited assets. You can see that on page 12. Egbeto plans tech-driven policies, improved welfare. DSS Combs Bowers Abuja home extend probe to associates. You can see that on page 8. And that's all we can take on the front pages of the papers. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining me, still today in the news on Vanguard Life, I am Precious Chukudi. Joining me to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of the papers this morning is Mr. Oludari Mayowa, publisher of Global Financial Digest. Good morning, sir. It's good to have you join me this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me today.
All right, so let's delve in. And now, the Debt Management Office has warned the federal government against additional borrowings. They're saying that 73.5% of revenue generated this year will be used to service debt. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you very much. I'm just wondering what the DMO are waiting for, what they have been doing all these years when Buhari was there and they were actually advising him to borrow money and giving excuse of we have GDP to debt ratio is okay, and revenue to GDP, I mean, debt ratio is what we are suffering for. And yeah, the man just let now they are now opening up and say this is what they could have done for many years. They gave ex-president Buhari latitude to borrow so much, expanding, because when you're adding the ways and means borrowing from CBN to our debt now, it's going to be close to 80 trillion naira. And what Buhari has borrowed in 8 years was enormous and huge. And the DMO should have actually looked at the president on the face and say, sir, we can't go beyond this limit. But we break all laws. For example, the issue of ways and means supposed to be 5% of previous year's revenue, but it's planning to over 20 something percent. And the DMO was there as a be advisor to the government. They're not saying anything. What are they saying now? For me, that's problem I have with them. Yes, we are not, government should also not to borrow again. But what have they been doing in the last 8 years? Why they didn't tell the previous government to say, put a break to this? Because we are running dangerously. When they now wake up suddenly and now begin to say, no, we cannot borrow again. Whereas they are the same people that have been advising government say, no, we have a revenue problem. We don't have a debt issue. So what are they doing? It means that those people are not serious. They don't know what they are doing, or probably they have the capacity, bonus to advise the president on what to do. That's where I will assess them.
All right, since the removal of fuel subsidy, one would expect that there will be less borrowing from the federal government. Now, how can the federal government, implement some discipline as regards borrowing?
The problem with the fuel subsidy is that there's so much corruption embedded in it, and we can't say government has not been paying money to subsidy in the last 2-3 years or so, according to probably what I understand. Because what MPs were doing about that was that they swap crude oil with the refinery over there, and they bring the refined product back to the country. And probably what they are paying for is the freight and the rest, and the tariff and the rest. So government has not been paying subsidy in the real term of it. They are just loading it for in budget provision sake. So they are not paying subsidy on anything. So what NPs were doing, just giving this crude oil at the production cost, which is about $30 per barrel, and giving to the refinery. So they are not paying the gap of what the current price of crude. So for me, if you are making saving, what will be doing that? Okay, the 450,000 barrel already are achieved for fuel will be sold at the market, and the money will come in. Yes, we gain some leverage of inflow of money if they're able to take away the leakages and the corruption in the system. But then that is not sufficiently to fund the government, to fund development, to fund infrastructure development at this level. Government need to raise more revenue, to pay the due debt, to service the debt, to pay the due debt, and to do some more work of infrastructure. So government still need more money, and they have to devise a means of getting that. But they need to raise our production level. What we are producing is about 1.3 million barrels per day. Our quota is about 5.6 or 1.7 million barrels per day. Until we have to raise corporate production to that level, then we can generate enough money, sufficient money to fund government, and we can talk about saving money and don't need to borrow. But as it is today, government needs to really look for a way to fund the system.
All right, speaking about increasing revenue, in your own view, what are your recommendations in terms of revenue generation?
One thing the government should do, number one, I said that number one, they need to increase oil theft in the Niger Delta. Could reduce drastically the oil theft, plug the loopholes, raise the productions of food oil so that can export more, can earn money. Then begin to diversify the economy. Try to we have in the solid minerals oil like gold and other minerals, solid minerals, where the government is not tapping into that system, and they will allow those sector to be played by. I mean, those who are playing in that area is the bandits, the terrorists. They are kind of those areas. Government need to move in and to exploit those minerals and export them and earn more money for it from that. Then they can expand the scope of the tax, not necessarily increase the tax revenue. But there are many people, there are many companies that should change the government. Let them begin to look at those leakages in that area and expand the scope. They can be able to capture some of those taxes, bring it to the net, and increase government revenue from those areas. Also, the import waivers they are giving some industry and the holiday tax holiday they are giving some people. It's embedded with corruption. Government to reform the tax system holistically to ensure that the money that some people get to government is getting to government. And lastly, government must cost the cost of governance. This one they are increasing 15% increase in wages of it's nonsense. We need to be to save money. Let everybody tie their own bed. The Nigerians are tightening their bed already. Let public officers tightening their bed too. And save the leakage. There's still so much corruption in the system. Until we're able to do that, government will not have any money to do development projects in this country. And we're going to waste a lot of money. Look at the kind of vehicle that our public officers are using. SUV, we're not producing those kind of vehicles in this country. Yeah, we are importing 250 million vehicles. How much vehicle for public officers to use? These are part of the wastages. Then the presidential fleet, they should reduce it. We have about 10 aircraft. What are they doing with 10 aircraft? They should reduce it to minimum level. After all, we see UK prime minister entering British Airways. No private jets. So why should we maintain 10 feet of aircraft in our presidential fleet? It's very wrong. These are areas we can save money and raise money to fund this economy. Otherwise, we still continue to depend on borrowing.
All right, moving on. There are speculations that the president may have dumped the idea of populating his government with former governors, and that he prefers technocrats and professionals in his to be members of his cabinet. What's your take?
For me, it's neither here nor there. Number one, because the governors work for him for his elections, they want compensation. Of course, he can compensate in other ways. But the most important thing is that the government get the competent hands to handle the ministry and department so that we can move forward, so they can restructure the economy. We are in a dire situation, and all hands must be on deck. Most of the governors, what have they done in their state? What is their performance in their state that now bring them as a minister? After 8 years in government, they should be go and rest and allow this country to move forward. They are part of the problem we are facing today. Most of them, even the so-called technocrats among them, they have done the politics and begin to loot their state. So why do we not to give them another opportunity to work for us? Let us go and look for people, recruit technocrats, recruit decent people. There are so many Nigerian diaspora who can be recruited to help this country. Nigeria is in a danger now, and it's time for rescue the country economy. So government should focus on how to rescue and the best hands, not necessarily the politicians, to help the government the president to achieve his ultimate goal for the country.
All right, moving on. According to RMAFC, they have said that salaries of politicians and public office holders would be increased by 114%. And this is coming at a time the fuel subsidy removal is biting hard on Nigerians. How do you react to this?
It's so unfortunate that our public officers, ordinarily are supposed to be servants, our servants to serve the nation. But we find that the cost of serving the nation today is becoming so enormous. And at the end of the day, what we are seeing is different. So increasing their wages, because when you compare their wages with the wages of other public officials elsewhere, Nigeria is the Nigerian public officials are the highest paid across, even more than American public servants. Yeah, they want to increase by 114%, which is robbery to me. I think that people should protest against it. Since come on, minimum is 30%, 30,000. And what is that compared to public servants who are doing the work? And that's why we are going to borrow money to pay their salary again. I think they should stop it, because the president should intervene and stop this. Otherwise, we won't see anything, any development in the next 4 years.
All right, it was noted that the last remuneration review was conducted in 2007, of which there's a school of thought that believes that if the salaries and allowances for public holders was not enough for them, they would have moved the motion for increment before now. What do you think?
I think what is happening is that the emolument they are increasing is it just the basic pay. The allowance is 10 times more than the basic payment. They are nobody dictate the allowance for them. The National Assembly, for example, they determine the allowance, the cloth allowance, the sitting allowance, the accommodation allowance, the rest. They determine that one outside the RMAFC. So they are just deceiving us. They are talking about the basic salary in that's what they want to increase. Despite the fact that they have a huge allowance they are paying themselves. Nobody determine that one. Nobody knows what they are paying. Today, nobody knows how much a senator or House of Rep members are taking home because they have loaded their allowances, sitting allowance, transport allowance, inconvenient allowance, and the rest. These are not determined by any wage commission or the rest. So this one is much than enough. So why they want to increase the basic pay when the allowance has already covered much more than what they are asking for? So they want to take more from the system and leave the system poorer than they meant. That's what it means.
In a time where we're obviously talking about federal government reducing the cost of governance and also minimum wage increase and all of that, is it safe to say that the government is oblivious to the pain of the people?
Yes, you can see that. I mean, for what we can say, that is it is. But if you are tuned to the pain of the people, they won't leave the civil servant alone. They won't look at the entire structure of the economy and focusing on themselves. That's where I look at it. They should do much more. It's not the right time for them to say I want to increase wages really, because the economy is prostrate and the people are living that already tightening their bets more than enough. So the so-called someone want to now it's not fair for the economy. That's exactly what we are seeing. They should do much. They should focus on doing the work. Already they are already taking too much from the system. Now to increase their burden on that because this burden are putting on the economy, and the economy cannot carry it.
All right, so let's move ahead to Mr. and Mrs. Before we go. And Mrs. is speaking. Mrs. is actually speaking this morning. He says, Maria, I don't understand you any longer. You took this lace material at the cost of 100,000 naira on credit because I am the credit manager of a bank, Maria. And Mrs. replies, says, I think you should give me the credit for taking this initiative. After all, if I look good, the credit goes to you.
I like playing with words. Yeah, credit. And that's what we find ourselves today. Everybody's taking credit. Government is taking credit to pay salary. The same guys to do really well. I take direct to do everything. And we are finding ourselves in a way we cannot fund any other thing again. We have to remove the subsidy. So maybe Mr. we have to remove subsidy for the housekeep so that they won't be taken again.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Udari Mayowa, publisher of Global Financial Digest. Thank you for sharing your thought with us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. God bless you and have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you. Also, remember that you can equally like, share, and subscribe on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. To find out up-to-date stories, you can go to our website, www.vanguardngl.com, to find out more. I am Precious Chukudi, and thank you for watching.